إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, today is the 28th of Shawwal, which means that tomorrow we'll be looking at the 29th of Shawwal. If at all possible, the slaves of Allah should try to look out for the Hilal, which will signal a new month. Whether Shawwal is 29 or 30 days will be ascertained at that time. If the new moon is seen, then this will mean Shawwal is 29 days. If it is not seen, Shawwal will be 30 days. In either case will come the month of Dhul Qa'dah. Dhul Qa'dah is the 11th month of our calendar. And the month after is Dhul Hijjah. So this will place us 29 or 30 days plus an additional 9 days away from Eid al-Adha. So I strongly advise those that are able to sight and look for it. We will be checking with the Maghrib to see if they have seen it as well. They will be looking in their different points and zones of contact. It also signals the end of Shawwal for seeking the reward for the 6 fasts of Shawwal, in which the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever should follow up Ramadan with the 6 fasts, that one shall have as if he has fasted the entire year. This is significant for us because we should try to always be in a mood for attaining maximum reward whenever possible. In the Tafsir in ul-Masir Fi Ilm it-Tafsir of Imam Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, we had finished at the tail end of ayat 28. We still have some remaining tafsir of ayat 28, in which we'll be carrying through. Now, ayat 29 begins on the 3/4 mark of the 29th hizb. As we know, the Mus'haf has 30 juz. We are in the 20th juz, but we are 3/4 through the 29th hizb. Hizb represents 10 pages. And so there are 60 ahzab. There are 60 hizb in the Qur'an. There are 30 juz. There are sab'a, which is 7 parts. So there's a 7th, or 7 sevenths. A nisf is a half, and a thulth is a third, a ruba is a fourth. So we are 3/4 of the way through. Imam Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, before this 3/4 mark, starts us off by finishing up the remainder of ayah 28 of Surah Al-Qasas, the 28th surah, when he says, quote, "And so then the Exalted One mentions to us regarding after Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam had completed his stipulated agreement with Nabiyuna Shu'aib alayhi salam, in which he worked for 10 years. Now it was mentioned and narrated from Ibn Abbas, from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that he was asked, it is said that there are two stipulations, because Allah the Exalted in ayat 28 mentions the expression ajalain. That is between me and between you, a covenant agreed. Ayyamal ajalaini. Those are two agreements that we have. When the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked about these two agreements, he says they were both completed in the best way possible. And this hadith is collected by Imam Al-Bukhari. Mujahid said that these two stipulated agreements are that Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam would work for Nabiyuna Shu'aib alayhi salam for 10 years, after which time he also would stay on for another 10 years. Wahab ibn Munabbih said, this means that after completing both stipulations, 10 years working to get married to his wife, and 10 years after the marriage, Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam was 60 years of age. Now, further to this, the Exalted One then tells us, فَلَمَّا قَضَى مُوسَى الْأَجَلَ وَسَارَ بِأَهْلِهِ آنَسَ مِنْ جَانِبِ الطُّورِ نَارًا قال لأهلهم كثوا إني آنست نارا لعلي آتيكم منها بخبر أو جذوة من النار لعلكم تصطلون فلما أتاها نودي من شاطئ الوادي الأيمن في البقعة المباركة من الشجرة أن يا موسى إني أنا الله رب العالمين وأن ألق عصاك فلما رآها تهتز كأنها جان ولا مدبرا ولم يعقب يا موسى أقبل ولا تخف إنك من الآمنين أسلك يدك في جيبك تخرج بيضاء من غير سوء واضمم إليك جناحك من الرهب فذلك برهان من ربك إلى فرعون وملئه إنهم كانوا قوما فاسقين قال ربي إني قتلت منهم نفسا فأخاف أن يقتلون وأخي هارون هو أفصح مني لسانا فأرسله معي يرد أن يصدقني إني أخاف أن يكذبون قال سنشد عضدك بأخيك ونجعل لكما سلطانا فلا يصلون إليكما بآياتنا أنتما ومن اتبعكما الغالبون. Whereas when Musa completed the stipulated agreement, he set out and traveled with his people. and he discovered at the side of the mount a fire in the distance. He said to his family, "Wait here, all of you. I'm going to investigate regarding the fire so that I might come to you either with news from those around it or a light from the fire in order to kindle." Whereas when he came to the spot, he came to the right side of the valley in a blessed spot where the tree was, where he heard the proclamation, "Musa, I am Allah, the Lord of all creation. Put down your staff." When he saw that upon putting his staff down that it moved and wriggled as if it was possessed, he turned his back to flee, but caught himself, for he was told, "Musa, remain steadfast, do not fear, you are safe. Now take your hand and place it inside the fold of your garment, and it will come out white without any stain. And know that this is the matter. Take these two signs as proof from your Lord to Fir'aun and his legion. They are a rebellious, sinning people." He said in reply, "Lord, I have killed from among them a soul. I fear that they may try to kill me in retaliation. My brother Harun, he is more eloquent than me in speech. Send him with me, so that he might be a helpmate and confirmer to me. I fear that they may deny me when I come among them." He, Allah, said in reply, "So shall it be that you shall be given your helpmate by way of your brother. We shall give authority to both of you, so that they cannot lay hands upon you. By our signs shall you come with, and those who follow you shall be victorious." Surah Al-Qasas, the 28th Surah, ayat 29 to 35. Now, when Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam is said to have come to the side of the mountain in the valley, the right side, this means the right of Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam when he was facing it. In a blessed spot, meaning the spot of the land where he was. And it is blessed because he, Allah, spoke to Musa at this spot. He came to that burning tree, which was on the same side he was facing, the right. Some scholars say that the tree, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said that the tree in question was a grapevine tree, while others such as Qatada and Ibn Sa'ib and Muqatil have said that it was a boxthorn tree. Now the rest of what follows after this, from Allah's proclamation to him up until the statement, "Indeed you will be from among those who are safe," ayah 31. This has already been covered in Surah An-Naml, ayah 10. When Allah the Exalted said, "So put the hand in the fold of your garment," meaning to put it in there, so when it's brought out, it will look different to how it was when it went in. We have described the rest of this ayah in Surah Taha, the 20th Surah, ayah 22, except that some of the scholars have discussed a different understanding with regard to the matter, but nonetheless they've come to much the same conclusion. And when it was said, "Now take the staff and place it back where it had been, for it will return back to its former state." So that way he could take both these signs to the Pharaoh of his time. Further to this, it's also been discussed by the scholars of commentary that when he felt fear of the snake, Allah commanded him to wait at his place and to grab the staff by what was now the tail of the snake, so that it might change back to how it had been. And so there might not be any fear upon him. When he saw his hand had become whitened, he was commanded to put it back in his fold of his garment so it might be brought back out, returned to its former state. And these two signs were to be among those signs that he would bring to the Pharaoh. Now the expression فَذَانِكَ is in the dual form, which means two. The two signs referred to have to immediately be the staff and the hand of Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam, for those are the first signs that he gave him upon speaking to him. He was told to go to the Pharaoh, so it means that these are the first two signs he was to take to go to the Pharaoh. Now after this, up until the statement where he said that Nabiyuna Harun alayhi salam is more eloquent than me in speech, we've already discussed much of this in Surah Al-Shu'ara, the 26th Surah, Ayah 14. Now what this means is that Nabiyuna Harun alayhi salam being more eloquent than him, meaning that his speech was more clear, because Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam had a lump on his tongue from the time when he was young that had to be lifted by Allah's command. Close quote. Now what this is referring to is a narration which we mentioned before, in which the Pharaoh of his time, and hadith in Sahih al-Jami' thought that Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam knew who he was and had enmity towards him. The wife of the Pharaoh of that time was Asya bint Muzahim, said that no, he does not know your identity, I can prove it, he is only a boy. And they took a hot rock and said, if he picks it up to play with it, or puts it in his mouth just as he would any other thing, then we know that he's a normal boy. But if he does not, then you'll know that he knows your identity and who you are. So Allah caused Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam to pick up that piece of coal or that hot piece of rock, and he put it in his mouth and it burned his tongue. And it left a mark, a lump, a scarred lump. In which case, at receiving the revelation, he said to Allah that Nabiyuna Harun alayhi salam was more eloquent than him in speech. Allah the Exalted sent Nabiyuna Harun alayhi salam with him, but also later, which is in Surah Al-Shu'ara, he removed that lump. But here we've not been told that in detail, because here Allah is mainly recapping the more important parts of the narrative that he wants us to understand. Now, you'll notice in the Qur'an that Allah has recapped the narrative of Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam and the Pharaoh numerous times, and from different angles. One from the angle of the children of Israel, one from the vantage point of Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam, one from the vantage point of the Pharaoh himself, and one from the vantage point of the magicians that became believers. There's all these different vantage points. Why? Well, firstly, to show you that He is Allah the Exalted, He does what He wants to, He can show you all the different vantage points. But number two, to give you clarity, to show you a panoramic view, so that you can see all of the narrative, what was going through the minds of both the enemies of Allah and the friends of Allah. Because there's often this understanding in this time, during the ignorance explosion, that, well, those people, how could they be responsible? They did not know. No. We are told in Surah Al-Qasas and other surahs that they knew the truth, but openly denied what they already knew. That can be traced immediately back to Surah Al-A'raf, the 7th surah, 172. That the souls were all brought out and asked, Ana lastu bi rabbikum, am I not your Lord? Qalu bala. They said, indeed, that is the case. So how could someone not know of Allah's oneness and nobility and greatness and mightiness? How could that not be the case? How could this not be the case? So the vantage points are given to show clarity and also hujjah, because Allah the Exalted is establishing this is what this is. This is what's happening. Right? Now, the Imam Ibn Al-Jawzi rahimahullah, he goes on to say, quote, and so when he had Nabiyuna Harun alayhi salam sent along with him to confirm what he was saying, to assist him and to help him, Allah the Exalted gave him the assistance of his brother. And he said that they would both have authority. Now, the authority would mean the clear evidences and proofs, and that they will not be able to lay their hands upon the both of you, meaning they will not be able to kill the two brothers, nor will they even be able to harm them. So the signs that they will be giving, that Allah said, bi-ayatina, with our signs. Our signs and that which they denied, they will not reach you. And our signs that have been given, they will not be able to lay hands upon you. They will not be able to stop these signs. And whoever follows you will be victorious. Meaning, victorious with our signs. Victorious with the truth. These signs were given as a reality so that people might witness them. Then the Exalted One, he says thereafter, فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُم مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا بَيِّنَاتٍ قَالُوا مَا هَذَا إِلَّا سِحْرٌ مفترى وما سمعنا بهذا في آبائنا الأولين وقال موسى ربي أعلم بمن جاء بالهدى من عنده ومن تكون له عاقبة الدار إنه لا يفلح الظالمون وقال فرعون يا أيها الملأ ما علمت لكم من إله غيري فأوقد لي يا هامان على الطين فاجعل لي صرحا لعلي أطلع إلى إله موسى وإني لأظنه من الكاذبين واستكبر هو وجنوده في الأرض بغير الحق وظنوا أنهم إلينا لا يرجعون فأخذناه وجنوده فنبذناهم في اليم فانظر كيف كان عاقبة الظالمين وجعلناهم أئمة يدعون إلى النار ويوم القيامة لا ينصرون وأتبعناهم في هذه الدنيا لعنة ويوم القيامة هم من المقبوحين ولقد آتينا موسى الكتاب من بعد ما أهلكنا القرون الأولى القرون الأولى بصائر للناس وهدى ورحمة لعلهم يتذكرون. When then Musa did come with our clear signs, those who received the clear signs said, "What is this except for magic that's been made up? We never heard of this among our fathers of old." Musa said, "Lord, I know of that which he came with guidance from in his sight, and who has the ending result, and who has the victory. The oppressors will never succeed." The Pharaoh then said, "O my retinue, I do not know of you any other God besides me." So then, therefore, Haman, let it be the case that baked red clay be put in the kiln. Make for me a tower so that I might ascend it and reach the God of Musa. But I think that he is a liar in this regard. He became arrogant, he and his army, and they moved through the earth without right, and they thought that they would never return to us. So we took hold of him with great force, both he and his army, and drowned them and dumped them at the embankment. Look, how was the end of those who are oppressors? We made them to come after, as imams and leaders calling to the fire, and on the day of resurrection they shall receive no assistance. And we caused them to be followed up in this earthly life with the great curse, and on the day of resurrection they will be laid low. We already gave Musa the book from after, and we did not destroy any generations from before that had insight towards the people, or guidance or mercy. This has been narrated to you so that they might have fear and remember and reflect. Surah Al-Qasas, the 28th Surah, ayat 36 to 43. Now the Exalted One says that they said, "This is clear magic that's been made up." They're referring to that which Nabiyyina Musa alayhi salam had come to Egypt with to guide them, that it's magic made up, and that they had not heard of this, meaning what he was calling them to, they'd not heard of this, and they said, "We've not heard of this in our ancestors of before." So Musa said, "My Lord, I know regarding the truth of that which we have, and what the end result shall be." Now the Pharaoh then says after this to Haman to make for me a kiln so that baked red clay might be made therein. Make a high castle or tower so that I might ascend it. Now, according to what we know regarding the commentary and the command to Haman, who was his minister at the time, to build this high lofty tower, he gathered together the workmen and builders until he had 50,000 workmen, excluding his followers. They wanted a tower built, or a structure built, higher than any structure that they could think of before. When they had completed their work, the Pharaoh made sure to have himself in an exalted post near the summit of the structure. and he had dust thrown from the top of it. And he said, after dust was thrown from the top of it mixed with water, it looked like blood. The Pharaoh said, look, I've killed the God of Musa. Allah the Exalted sent Jibreel to come and cut down this tower. And a piece of it fell down on the retinue of the Pharaoh and killed thousands of men. Another piece fell into the water on the coast, and another fell westward. And the Pharaoh said, I want to climb so that I might see the God of Musa, because I think he is a liar, meaning to claim that there is another God besides me. Ibn Jarir in his commentary stated, he thought that Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam was lying in saying that there was a Lord that is above the sky that sent him. So he and his army became arrogant, meaning those in the land of Egypt, he and his army, without right and falsehood. And they thought that they would never return, meaning that there is no resurrection, and they would not be guided to us. Close quote. Now this is an extremely important part. If you get an opportunity to, I think there are 2 large books that you should get. I would recommend you 22, but I'm only going to give you 2 large books. One is the Oxford History of the Pharaohs of Egypt. I know it will be slightly expensive, but it is worth the buy because of the fact of the historical data that is inside, because of the data on religious practices. Then I would say to try to get your hands on any books that have been written by Dr. Anthony Broder, Browder, Broder, dual possible way to pronounce that. And also, as a third, a Dr. Nahas, who is Egyptian, and he's the foremost Egyptologist. Now, why have I told you to gather this information together? In the middle of a Tafsir class, we have the Mus'haf open, we've got Tafsir ibn Al-Jawzi open. Why have I told you this? For a number of reasons. One is that the Pharaoh of this time, he said, we haven't heard of this. The people and the Pharaoh say, we've not heard of this in our fathers of old. You need to remember, this is 3,300 years ago these events are taking place. 3,500 at most. You have to remember, Egypt at this point is in its heyday. In the entire history of Egypt, some scholars of Egyptology would say there were 27 or 28 dynasties. So in the time of Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam, we're way past the halfway mark. Now, what are we seeing in the pharaonic Egyptian period? Glorification of forces of nature. And so the Medu nature is one of the words, place where the word nature comes from, is nature, which is from the Egyptian pharaonic times. Nature means nature. And the Egyptians worship forces of nature, like the sun, the wind, the rain, the stars. They worship forces of nature, power around them, and felt that they derived power through worshiping these things. So when they say, we've not heard of this from our fathers of old, well, because the pharaonic system from that time all the way to Nabiyuna Musa and the time before, after the kingdom was unified, when what we're now fallaciously calling Sudan, when the first king of Egypt, who was wearing the dual crown, he unified the northern and southern kingdoms 5,000 years ago. Not long after his time, you have the introduction of demigods, forces of nature being deified, like the dung beetle or the scarab. Yes, the dung beetle was worshipped. The frog was worshipped. The scorpion was worshipped. The gnat, the mosquito, Anubis, the jackal. Some people would wear Anubis masks. The forces of nature and things around them were worshipped and mimicked. So when they say we've not heard of this, here are our fathers of old, meaning as long as they've been recording information for the size of that empire from the nexus point or the beginning of that empire up until the time of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, for thousands of years, we've never heard of the fact that there's one singular imageless deity overall. We've never heard of this. And that he's above the sky. Now, looking at the statement of the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh then says, I don't know for you, O retinue, any God besides me. Why? Who does the Pharaoh represent? Well, when you obtain those books, you'll be able to read in more detail, but I'll give sort of a summarized view. The Pharaoh of that time was believed to be the reincarnated structure of, or reincarnated figure of Osiris. So you'll often see pictorial representations of the Pharaoh next to Osiris or dressed as Osiris, and sometimes they paint his skin as green because that's the color of plants when they become green. It's the color of chlorophyll, it's the color of fertility. And some Egyptian scholars of the past taught, meaning the people of Egypt, that the human being's original color was green, that his skin was originally green. But the reason why human beings developed brown skin and it became brown was because the levels of iron went up in the atmosphere and in the soil. And that had an impact on the skin color. So people's skin color became, rather than being a deep, rich, greenish color, it became a darker, browny, tawny color. So the Pharaoh was believed to be the chief Nasut, which was the chief priest of Egypt. He is the representation of Osiris. So when the Nile would overflow, it represented that cycle of life and death. The Nile overflows its banks and sends a rich flood of fertile mud and soil across the landscape, which people then gather together and use to plant their crops. It still happens today. It still happens today, thousands of years later. Now, not as much before, because that great demigod of communism, Gamal Abdel Nasser, builds the Aswan High Dam, which floods areas that hadn't been flooded before, causes rain in areas that hadn't rained in before, and also dries up sections of the Nile and overfloods areas where it hadn't been overflowed before. Why? Because when you're a communist and you're confiscating private property and saying that there is no private property, we all have public property, and you're trying to implement Das Kapital in Egypt rather than Russia, you're going to produce anomalies. So you have Gamal Abdel Nasser to thank, not La'na, you have him to thank for this exciting and exquisite example of engineering abysmal, spectacular, terrible tragedy. We have him to thank for this, fortunately. So the Pharaoh represents the chief Nasut. He's a chief deity. And no Egyptian in that time period that was loyal to their gods could imagine a deity that didn't look like them or didn't look like one of the forces of nature. So Nabiyuna Musa alayhi salam and his brother Nabiyuna Harun alayhi salam come in unto them and say that there's a Lord that's above the sky who doesn't resemble his creation, that sent me and him as prophets unto you with these signs. That's completely the opposite of everything that Egyptian culture is based on. So rightly, they would try to refute that. So he uses red brick that's heated in kilns and has it built up. Now, from what we know, the greatest builder, he was called the Builder Pharaoh, and the pharaoh that we know that was the first one to use red mud brick was Ramses II. And we know that no pharaoh built more structures than him. And we know that no pharaoh was more prolific than him in terms of siring descendants and in terms of building structures. He left behind a huge amount of legacy from Ramses. Further to this, it is stated that they thought that they would not return to us. Now, another reason why I recommended to you those books by foremost Egyptologists is for you to understand two things about ancient Egyptian society. Eschatology, which is their end times in the end, and soteriology, which is their salvation. Egyptian soteriology is when someone dies, they would have their brain extracted through their nose, which is possible to do by taking the small piece of cartilage, removing that middle cartilage so that the nose is fully expanded, having a small, what looks like about the size of a hanger with a hook on the end, to run that up through the nose, and it links onto the frontal lobe of the brain, and to then pull the brain down through the nose. That is not hard to do because the brain, in terms of its flexibility and malleability, is similar to the placenta. And if anyone's ever seen a placenta delivered, when it comes out, it's very long, like a tube of salami. And then it expands once it's fully pulled out. The brain is no different. So they remove the brain, the kidneys, and the liver in other cases. They then put them in jars, the heart as well. And they bury that with the person. In addition, if you have pets, they die with you. You have servants, well, obviously, you're going into the next life. You need to take your servants with you. So the cook, the baker, the candlestick maker, he has to go with you. They then seal the tomb area. Now, it was believed by the ancient Egyptians that when you go into the afterlife, you meet Anubis, the jackal-headed trickster deity. He takes your heart and weighs it for sincerity. He then takes the liver and other things to weigh it for deeds as well as adherence. It is then checked to see whether you have adhered to the 42 principles of Ma'at, which are also present in those 3 books I've recommended you. The 42 principles of Ma'at, one of which is a scathing condemnation of homosexuality. Nonetheless, it is checked to see whether you have adhered to the 42 negative confessions of Ma'at, which has a listing of I have not done, and then it has a listing of the actions. If you have adhered to the 42 negative confessions of Ma'at, the coffin text, the pyramid text, you've adhered to these confessions, you then go into the afterlife. If you do not, you are nothing. Or you are trapped between both realms. The way to hurt people in the afterlife is to disfigure their likeness, statues, or to disturb their deceased bodies. Unwrapping the mummified corpses, taking the tops off of the sarcophagi, disfiguring the faces, blots someone out not only in this life, but also in the life to come. So when Allah says they did not think they would return to us, that's true because they don't have a concept of the Day of Judgment. If you read those 3 texts on their mythology and their other things, the ancient Egyptians had no concept of resurrection. And again, it was deeds-based salvation because the liver is weighed for what? For your deeds, to see if you were a good guy. Have you adhered to the 42 negative confessions of Ma'at? Well, you've been a good boy then. And because you've been so good, you've been that 51% good person, come on in. So I want you to understand when Allah the Exalted is making these statements about ancient Egypt and what's going on regarding Egypt, that these things should be as real to you as any other piece of history. They can be checked and examined, and you can find out that these people, they didn't believe in a resurrection. When the Pharaoh says to his retinue, I don't know any God besides me for you, he was telling the truth in terms of their pantheon of deities. He's the highest authority in Egypt. He's deity. He's the chief Nasut. He's the chief priest. Who's got a better who is in charge of Egypt but him? In another ayah, if we remember correctly, surahs before, he said, is it not I that caused the Nile to flow below my feet? Because the Nasut was believed, because he's the resurrection of Ramses, the reincarnation of Ramses, that he's the one that causes the Nile to overflow in the embankment. And by appeasing him, by throwing a virgin in ever so often, still dragging the Nile and finding skeletons of 19, 20-year-old women that have been thrown in just to keep the Nile appeased and to keep the chief Nasut happy. And sometimes he would take pleasure from them before they were dispensed with. This is what happened. So this is a part of history. So here Allah the Exalted is giving us not just the revelation, but He's giving us a history lesson. The final point is the expression yem, which again is the ancient Egyptian word for embankment. Yem is not Arabic. Yem is an old Egyptian word for embankment. So here Allah, not only does He give us a history lesson, He even uses the word from that time period just to make sure that you understand. Because He's the Lord of all history, the Lord of all creation. The Imam, rahimahullah, he then starts by saying, quote, and the Exalted One says further, and we made them, meaning them in this life, as heads, imams, leaders of kufr, who call to the fire, because whoever obeys them shall enter the fire, and they shall receive no help. Now we've already discussed this in Surah Hud, the 11th Surah, ayat 60 and 99. Close quote. Just very quickly. Here Allah has said, look at this, at the end of this, He says that we made them, meaning these Egyptians, imams calling to the fire. I want you to think, what ancient civilization can you think of besides Greece and Rome that studied more than ancient Egyptian culture, the pharaohs, Tut, King Tut, all these other things? In fact, where did Greek civilization came from? According to Martin Brunel and others, they say that the Greeks copied the Egyptians. So the Egyptians were the imams of Greek civilization. Okay, well, where'd the Romans come from? The Romans copied from the Greeks. So the Egyptians are the imams of this current kufr as we see it. They're the inheritors and imams of this current kufr. That's why there's an obelisk in Central Park in New York. There's an obelisk in this country. It's taken from Egypt. There's an obelisk in Paris. When Egypt was conquered and taken over in 1798 by Napoleon, they stole more than 9 obelisks. Why? Because the Egyptians are the imams of kufr. In their time and after, they're the imams of kufr. Well, what are they the inheritors of? Babylon, Sumer, which is the old kufr of Semiramis, and Nimrod sleeps with his own wife, he sleeps with his own mother, and he produces a nation that comes from this is that civilization. The Egyptians just took it, synthesized it, perfected it, and then handed it down as this complete system. Aleister Crowley studied the Egyptian mystery religious system. You know the Freemasons, your Shriners, your 33rd degree, do you know that they study ancient Egyptian mystery religion? They study that. The founding fathers of the United States were Masons and studied the ancient Egyptian mystery system. Shriners, all your different Mason types, York Rite, Scottish Rite, the Prince Hall or Prince Albert Hall, which are your quote-unquote black Masons. The Arabs that belong to the Blue Lodge, which I could bring pictures and show you, of Arab Masons who study the ancient Egyptian mystery religious rites. The Egyptians, when Allah says they're the Imams, calling to the fire, and on the day of resurrection they shall not be helped. We cause them to be followed in this earthly life, and those who follow them to be cursed, and on the day of resurrection they shall be cursed. This is them. So the Greco-Roman civilization is the inheritance of Egypt. So if you get an opportunity to look up this history of these stolen obelisks, 1798, traditionally by Masons, is also said to be the beginning of Freemasonry. Look at the people from the Anglosphere and from the Francophone-speaking countries, because the French were the first to crack the code and do the Rosetta Stone. They were among your first Masons, your first Freemasons. George Washington, and these aren't things that are conspiracy theories, maybe, maybe not. Their names are on the walls of Masonic temples. They were Freemasons. Founding fathers were Freemasons. And they were into the Egyptian mystery religious culture. They were into it. That's why some of them have Anubis heads, and when they wear the Freemasonic aprons, they have the square and the compass with the G in the middle, and sometimes they have the Eye of Horus. What's the Eye of Horus doing on the American dollar if it's nothing to do with that? What's the Great Pyramid doing on the back of the American dollar? Because that's that ancient Egyptian mystery religious system. And that's the inheritance of Sumer and Babylon. So when Allah says these people are Imams of Kufr, don't be simplistic. Think this through, because it's true. Now after this, the Imam Rahimahullah, he then says, quote, and when Allah the Exalted said, and we gave Musa the book, after all those nations before had been destroyed. The nations being destroyed before, after we destroyed the nations from before. The nations destroyed before Nabiyyina Musa alayhi salam includes the people of Nuh, Ad, Thamud, and others. This is so that people might take heed and take warning from what they've seen, so that they might be insightful and seek guidance. Further to this, Allah the Exalted, he then says, وَمَا كُنْتَ بِجَانِبِ الْغَرْبِ إِذْ قَضَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَى الْأَمْرَ وَمَا كُنْتَ مِنَ الشَّاهِدِينَ وَلَكِنَّا أَنْشَأْنَا قُرُونًا فَتَطَاوَلَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْعُمُرُ وَمَا كُنْتَ ثَاوِيًا فِي أَهْلِ مَدْيَنَ تَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِنَا وَلَكِنَّا كُنَّا مُرْسِلِينَ وَمَا كُنْتَ بِجَانِبِ الطُّورِ إِذْ نَادَيْنَا ولكن رحمة من ربك لتنذر قوما ما أتاهم من نذير من قبلك لعلهم يتذكرون ولولا أن تصيبهم مصيبة بما قدمت أيديهم فيقولوا ربنا لولا أرسلت إلينا رسولا رسولا فنتبع آياتك ونكون من المؤمنين فلما جاءهم الحق من عندنا قالوا لولا أوتي مثل ما أوتي موسى أولم يكفروا بما أوتي موسى من قبل قالوا سحران تظاهرا وقالوا إنا بكل كافرون قل فأتوا بكتاب من عند الله هو أهدى منهما أتبعه إن كنتم صادقين فإن لم يستجيبوا لك فاعلم أنما يتبعون أهواءهم ومن أضل ممن اتبع هواه بغير هدى من الله إن الله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. You were not at the western side of the mountain when we brought our command to Musa. You were not witness there at that point. But we caused to be nations that came, and a long period passed over them. You were not privy to what occurred with the people of Midian. They had our signs recited to them, and we had sent down the truth to them. You were not at the side of the mountain when we called out, but a mercy from your Lord so that you might warn a people who had no warner come to them from before you, so that they might reflect and have insight. And if it's not the case that they should undergo any testing from what their hands had put forth, they would have said, Our Lord, why didn't you send to us a messenger? We would have followed your signs, and we would have believed if you'd sent us someone. Why have you just punished us without sending anyone? Whereas when the truth came to them from us, they said, Well, why haven't we been given the likeness of what Musa was given? So is it then they didn't reject faith in what Musa was given from before, and the people didn't reject faith? Surely they did. The people of Musa said, He and his brother are two magicians trying to exalt themselves in the land. And they said, We reject them in totality. Say, Come with a book from the sight of Allah that's more guided than that which they had. I will follow it if you're truthful. If they're not able to answer you, then no. They only follow their own vain desires. Who is more astray than the one who follows his desires without guidance from Allah? Indeed, He, Allah, does not guide the oppressing people. Surah Al-Qasas, the 28th Surah, ayat 44 to 50. The Exalted One, when He said, You were not present on the western side of the mount, as Zajjaj said, so He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was not present at the western side of the mount, meaning the information He's being given is from the unseen. When we gave the command to Musa, meaning when we gave the judgment to him that he would be sent to the Pharaoh and his own people as well, you were not a witness to that, meaning to that which had occurred. Now, in this is a clarification of the truthfulness and correctness of the prophethood of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they know that he did not read books and he did not know what had occurred from before. It's by revelation to him, because there is no other way he could have known. And this is what Allah is saying. But we created many nations that came after Musa, and a long time passed over them. Meaning, the long time that passed over them, they forgot the covenant of Allah. They forgot His commands. This is proof that the people of Musa and Musa in his time had indeed taken covenants regarding the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and some of them had believed in him. Whereas a long period passed over them, they forgot about those covenants. And you were not present among the people of Midian. So here, Allah is teaching the news of Nabiyyuna Musa and Shu'aib, alayhim as-salam, and their peoples. And he is reciting this to the people of Mecca. But we sent you. وَلَكِنَّا كُنَّا مُرْسِلِينَ. So Allah is saying, we sent this information to you to inform the people of Mecca. We informed you of the news of nations before. So that if they ask, how did you know this information? Say it's by revelation. You were not present at the side of the mount, meaning the mountain where Allah spoke to Musa. When we called out to Musa and we spoke with him, you were not present there, O Muhammad. But we gave you information of this before they ask you, so that you might give them the proof. And if they answer you, then they've answered you. But Allah says, it is a mercy from your Lord. As Zajjaj says, it means that you did not know this information regarding the narratives of the prophets from before, but we revealed it to you. We narrated it to you as a mercy from your Lord that you have this information. When the truth, though, came to them, meaning the people of Mecca, from our sight, meaning the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Qur'an, they said, well, why weren't we given? Why was he, Muhammad, given these signs? But why wasn't he given the like of what Musa was given before? Like in the case of the staff and the hand. The scholars of commentary say that in that time, the Jews had commanded the Quraysh to ask Muhammad to bring the likeness of what Musa brought. So he, the Exalted One, said, did they not reject faith in Musa, even though he had been given what they asked for? So they disbelieve in the signs of Musa, yet they want the same signs of Musa? And they say, meaning the children of Israel, in that time, well, this is clear magic, it's unacceptable, we don't accept it. So how can they reject it if they knew that it would not be accepted? They knew that they would not accept this information. So the idol-worshipping Arabs went to ask to be given the same signs as Musa was given. Now, on this understanding, the matter becomes clear. And they said, we reject all of that which has been brought by these people. So Allah said to his Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to tell the idol worshippers of Mecca, then bring a book from Allah that's more guided than these two books, meaning the Qur'an and the book that it came, the Torah from Nabiyyuna Musa alayhi salam. If you're truthful, meaning if you think that they're both acts of magic, then bring the likeness of these books. But if they cannot answer you, meaning if they can't bring the likeness of the Torah or the Qur'an, then know that they only follow their own desires. Meaning they follow kufr and they have no proof, because kufr is not based on proof. And who is more astray than the one who follows his own desires without right guidance from Allah? Look at the condition of such people. Close quote. Now, something here that's significant that we should consider and look into is this. We have the story of Nabiyyuna Musa and Nabiyyuna Shu'aib alayhi salam, but specifically the Torah of Nabiyyuna Musa. So when the people deny them, they say, then bring a book that's more guided than these. If you think the matter is as you say, bring a book more guided than the Torah. Bring a book more guided from the sight of Allah than these. Now, it's not just to bring a book with more guidance, but to bring it the same way. So to bring another Torah from Mount Sinai. They can't bring the likeness of this. Bring another Qur'an in which an angel has brought it. Bring another one. You can't bring the likeness of it. So all the speech of Allah is special because it comes through miraculous means. It says, and if they do not answer, meaning they're not able to tender a response, they only follow their desires. Because these people constantly are asking for signs to be brought. And when they said, well, let the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam bring the same signs that Nabi Musa alayhi salam brought. But wait a minute, you didn't believe in those signs. The staff, the white hand, and the other of the 9 signs that rocked Egypt, the Pharaoh didn't believe in those signs. Some of the children of Israel didn't even believe in those signs. So how can you say, bring those signs and we'll believe, when you didn't believe in any of those signs? That's unacceptable. So when they say we want the same signs, but you didn't believe in those, so why would you ask for the same signs that you rejected? So all of this is very important because Allah mentions all the prophets. And at the same point, Allah also shows that He has proof over all things, because He says, if it wasn't the case that they were sent messengers and then whatever they had brought on their own hands had come to get them, they would say, well, why didn't we have a messenger sent to us? Because if the world had been destroyed or the nation had been destroyed, we didn't receive a messenger. We would have followed him if he was sent. We would have believed. Well, now one's been sent, the final one. And now you're, as has been the case all the other times before from Nabi Nuh alayhi salam up until now you're rejecting him. But you can't say on the day of judgment, we didn't have anyone sent to us. We didn't know. You had 124,000 prophets, out of them 313 messengers. You've had everyone. Everyone's come to you. Well, why couldn't, one of the classic arguments is, well, if it was true, why couldn't He show Himself to all of us? He spoke to 3 million people at the base of Mount Sinai 3,300 years ago, and you didn't accept that. You didn't accept that, it won't matter what else gets done. You saw angels on the battle of Badr and Uhud. Both unbelievers and believers saw them. You saw all different types of phenomenological things happening in the world where the laws that we know of physics and everything else were interrupted. Nope, don't accept those. So then what good would it be for you to see more than that, and all the things that build up to that, you don't accept them? Someone once said to me when I asked him, and it's very interesting because believers don't start these arguments. It's always unbelievers that start. So I'll be at work or I'll be out with someone, and it's always an unbeliever, whether it's an idol worshiper, a garden variety pagan, or an atheist, that always starts the arguments with me. I don't start any discussion with them about the deen or the faith, but they always start it with me. You know, this whole religion thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to discuss religion? I thought you said atheism isn't about religion. Why are you talking about it? You're more preoccupied with it than I am. So immediately the discussion starts. Well, I mean, if all this was true, why couldn't we just have something that was sent once and for all that would clarify things? It happened 1,400 years ago, we received clarification. Well, yeah, but I mean, something else besides that. The Torah scrolls, the slabs, the granite slabs, written in with lightning, 613 laws, the Injil, the Suhuf, the Zabur. What do you guys want? Just like do you want like the entire British Library to just be given to you and told, listen, here it is? Even then you'll say, well, we don't accept it. Why is it in English for? It came in Arabic. What's it in Arabic for? It came in Hebrew. What's it in Hebrew for? It came in Aramaic. What's it in Aramaic for? It doesn't matter what language it is in. It doesn't matter what it is. There are certain people that no matter what information you come with, they will not believe. And this is a sad reality. There are certain people, irrespective of what information you bring, they will not believe. As much as you find people, you will give them information that you have gleaned from years of research. And in one television program from CNN or Fox and Friends or MSNBC, they said, well, no, that can't be true. If it was, it'd be all over the news. So certain people, it doesn't matter what information you bring. That doesn't mean you don't bring any information. But you need to understand that those people are out there. And they're always going to be there. And sometimes those people will try to block you from having a conversation with someone else. I've had conversations initiated by someone, both of them unbelievers, and in mid-flow having a very civilized, evidence-based conversation with an unbeliever, the second one comes in and says, well, you're not going to start following that, are you? What does it have to do with you? What business is it of yours? I thought we believed we live in a free society. What business is this of yours? But again, this person is known as the anid, the opposer, in which not only do they reject faith, but they also try to make sure that other people do it as well. So someone expresses interest, what are you getting involved in that for? Right? What are you doing that for? Get out of there. So you have to understand that all these things regarding the prophets that we've seen, all the information and the revelation that we have, is something that Allah has given many different nations. So it's not just us. It's not just the Hebrews that receive revelation, just the Arabs that receive revelation, just the Iraqis that receive revelation. Everyone has received revelation. The issue is what they've done with it. That's why we can find parallels. Every culture on this earth has a tale of a flood. It's always global. It's always a man and his wife and 3 sons. Isn't that interesting? The names might be different. In China, the names will be Chinese. But it's always a worldwide global flood. A man collects together all the land animals. It's him, his wife, 3 sons and their wives, and the rest of the human race winks out of existence under a cataclysmic flood. It doesn't matter what culture you go to. All the stories are global. They all have the same discussion. A man, his wife, 3 sons, and their wives. And then it always ends the same way. They open up the barge, they repopulate the world. Same over and over again. Now, genetic scientists have done what? They've traced back all the haplogroups to what? 3 guys, 3 women. But some have said it's more women. It may be 7 women, which means it might have been polygamous. That's not an issue for us. That's what we've been telling you. It took you the haplogroups and hematology to find 3, 4 people and 7 women. That's what we've been telling you in this book. It took you all that time to isolate down the haplogroups and study hematology to get to the level of saying there were 4 men and at least 4 women, or perhaps as high as 7 women, and that's where we get to. We can't go past that other than to look at the genetic material, but this is the earliest material we have. Go look up the haplogroups, study hematology. They all get to the same point. But Allah has told us, no, that's not good enough. Scientists have come and told you, yes, according to the studies of hematology and haplogroups, well, it must be true then. Allah has told you in the Revelation 1400 years ago. But these are the realities. So, before stopping for Maghrib, inshallah, we'll look at the recitation of one final page. And this next page from ayah 51 to 59, this is the beginning of the 40th hizb. That means there are 20 hizb away from completion of the Mus'haf, still in the 20th juz. The Imam, rahimahullah, he says, quote, and the Exalted One, he speaks the truth when he says that they reject faith and they cannot answer. And when the truth comes to them, they necessarily negate it. The Exalted One says further, وَلَقَدْ وَصَّلْنَا لَهُمُ الْقَوْلَ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ هُمْ بِهِ يُؤْمِنُونَ وَإِذَا يُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ قَالُوا آمَنَّا بِهِ إِنَّهُ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّنَا إِنَّا كُنَّا مِنْ قَبْلِهِ مُسْلِمِينَ أولئك يؤتون أجرهم مرتين بما صبروا ويدرؤون بالحسنة السيئة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون وإذا سمعوا اللغو أعرضوا عنه وقالوا لنا أعمالنا ولكم أعمالكم سلام عليكم لا نبتغي الجاهلين إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء وهو أعلم بالمهتدين وقالوا إن نتبع الهدى معك نتخطف من أرضنا أولم نمكن لهم حرما آمنا يجبى إليه ثمرات كل شيء رزقا من لدنا ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون وكم أهلكنا من قرية بطرت معيشتها فتلك مساكنهم لم تسكن من بعدهم إلا قليلا وكنا نحن الوارثين وما كان ربك مهلك القرى حتى يبعث في أمها رسولا يتلو عليهم آياتنا وما كنا مهلك القرى إلا وأهلها ظالمون. We've already caused to reach them the word so that they might reflect upon it and remember. Those who we gave them the book from before, they believed in it. When it was recited to them, they said, we believe in it. It is the truth from our Lord. And we from before that had believed and submitted. These people were given their reward twice because of their patience and enduring, giving good deeds and exchanging evil for good. And from that which we sustained them of, they spent. And whenever they heard vain speech, they fled from it. And they said, we have our deeds, you have your deeds. Peace be upon you, and we do not seek to be with the ignorant ones. You cannot guide who you love, but Allah guides who He wills. He knows best about those who are guided. They say, if we follow the guidance with you, we would be toppled from our land. Is it not the case that we will establish for them boundaries and basins so that they might be safe, and that they might take from the produce of everything as sustenance, which we had given from beforehand? But most of them don't know. How many a nation did we destroy before? And their habitations are all that's left. And we left nothing to remain after them except a little bit. And we are the inheritors of all things. Your Lord does not destroy any nation until He sends among its people a messenger, reciting to them our signs. We did not destroy any nation except that its people were oppressors. Surah Al-Qasas, the 28th Surah, ayat 51 to 59. The Exalted One has said further, we caused the word to reach them. The Quraysh, or who's being referred to according to the understanding of the vast majority, meaning the Qur'an reached them. and the news of other nations, how they were punished, so that they might reflect. And those who were given the book, meaning those who believed from the people of the book, they believed in the Injil, the 40 riders from An-Najashi who came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they witnessed the battle of Uhud and they believed. Those who became Muslim from the children of Israel, such as Abdullah ibn Salam and others. Those who believed from before the Qur'an. And this is referring to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but also to others who believed because his name was written among them. And when the revelation is recited to them, they said, we believe in it. We were believers before. We were Muslims, sincere before this. And we knew that Muhammad will come in unto us. These people shall be given their reward twice, because they believed, those believers from the people of the book. And they were patient. Because they were patient with the first book, they were patient in following the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were patient with faith in him, believing he would be sent. They accepted his followers, and they suffered. When they heard unacceptable speech, cursing and bad language, idolatry, and this is referring to a people from the children of Israel that believed, and they used to hear about how the children of Israel had changed the description of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they disliked this. But they said, we have our deeds, you have your deeds, and peace be upon you. Now this does not mean necessarily a greeting as said by Az-Zajjaj. What is intended by is between us and between you is mutual giving. This is before the Muslims were commanded to fight back. The Muslims were told to restrain themselves. So it's been said by scholars of commentary that this has been abrogated by Surah At-Tawbah, the 9th Surah 5, in which the Muslims may fight back. And we do not fall into the faith of the ignorant ones, nor do we seek oppression, nor do we want to be oppressive ones. Then the Exalted One says, you cannot guide who you love. Now the reason this was sent down, is it's related by a Muslim, and it's also related by Al-Bukhari from the hadith of Abu Hurairah, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to his uncle, say La ilaha illallah. It is a testimony, I will bear witness of it for you on the day of resurrection. He said, the women of the Quraysh will find fault with me and they will laugh. They'll say, he only did that because he was close to death. He then slowly closed his eyes and died without having said the word. Allah then sent down not long after this, you cannot guide who you love. As Zajjaj has said, the scholars of commentary have made consensus that this was sent down regarding Abu Talib. So you can't guide who you love, meaning who you want to be guided, who you would love from your close relatives. But Allah guides who He wills to His deen, who He wills, not who you will. And He knows best about those who are guided, who He has ordained to be guided. And they say, if we had followed the guidance, if we follow this guidance, then we'll be dislodged from our positions of authority in the earth. And this was said, it's been said this was mentioned by Ibn Abi Mulaika, that Al-Harith ibn Amr and others had said to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we know that which you come with is true, but if we should follow the guidance, which currently we are averse to do, we fear that the Arabs will dislodge us from our positions and we will lose our posts in Mecca. So what's being said by these idol worshippers is, if we follow you in your religion, we fear that the Arabs will oppose us and remove us from our positions. and we won't have any honor or strength in the earth or safety, because the Arabs protect each other by safety, family lineage, and the like. But had they not known that those who believe Allah would establish them in the earth, give them sustenance from His sight. But most of these people don't know, meaning they don't know that Allah can protect them, and they don't thank Him, and they don't trust in Him. How many nations have we destroyed before? He say, we destroyed. How many have we destroyed before? How many nations have we destroyed to show fear of what's happened to the past nations? To show the reality of what happened to those of the past. Here are their habitations. No one stays in them except for travelers, or people pass them by on the way to traveling to other locations. No one lives in them except for a small amount of people. We inherited them after their destruction. And He, Allah, does not destroy any people, unbelieving people, until He sends a messenger among them first. And this is one of the clearest signs of the sending of the messenger, because the messenger, he was only sent to the people, the best of the people and the best of nations and their kings, to warn them first, because the common people had already believed. And He recites upon them our signs, that the punishment is nigh, it's coming. We don't destroy any nation except that its people are oppressors, and they deserve destruction. Close quote. So inshallah, we will close on this point on ayat 59. But suffice it to say, it's important to remember when Allah says, we don't destroy any nation except its people are oppressors. So Allah doesn't send devastation and punishment because it's a reward. It's sent because it's a punishment. When you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you receive punishment. No one says, you're such a good guy, you're a nice fellow, you're going to jail now because you've worked so hard, you've been such a nice man. No, people receive punishment and other things because they're doing wrong actions, or they're perceived by a law-making body or what have you as doing wrong actions. So Allah destroys nations for their wrong actions. He sends messengers among them, and then He said something very interesting. He said, فَتِلْكَ مَسَاكِنُهُمْ, here are their habitations. لَمْ نُسْكِنْ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا, no one lives in them except for a small amount. So you go to Easter Island, you go to all these other places, they're just tourist sites now. No one lives there. The people that inhabited it, that were mighty and strong, go to Tenochtitlan now in Mexico. The Aztecs don't live in Tenochtitlan now. They don't live there. They live in Mexico City, what was left of them, repopulated area that's now Mexico City. But the Aztec civilization that had built Tenochtitlan is gone. Machu Picchu is gone. The mighty Inca Empire is gone. The Toltec Empire is gone. The Maya Empire is gone. The Guatemalans are there, the Mayan people, but their empire, what made them, that's finished now. So all of these great nations of the past, the only thing we have left of them is museum pieces, tourist spots, and whatever we might run across in history books. But this is what Allah has done to show that He, Allah, is in charge of all things. He destroyed every nation. Some of them without trace. In the Qur'an, sometimes Allah says we destroy the nations without trace. You can't figure out, someone used to live here, but we don't know who, but they were wiped out. We don't know who, but they are gone now. Right? So, I say, أقول قولي هذا استغفر الله لي ولكم استغفر الله إن الله غفور رحيم الحمد الراحمين. Is there any question before we break for Salat al-Maghrib? Yes.
The tower that Fir'aun built, are there any remains to that? Or was it completely destroyed?
The question is regarding the tower that the Pharaoh built. Is there anything that remains of it? Or has it been completely destroyed? Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. There's a dispute among some scholars over what that tower was, because it said it was very enormous and pieces of it fell in different places. Some say that some of the pyramids down in the south of Egypt might have been part of this original, much larger structure. So we're not talking the ones from Giza, we're talking in the south. Because there was no Cairo at this point. There was Thebes and Elephantine and Swenet. They believe that some of those might have been part of a conglomeration of a massive complex. Some say that they found the ruins of a massive tower in Elephantine, which is not far from Luxor. But again, those are sort of historical disputes. I'd need to go there myself to know for sure. I can only narrate to you what little bit I've got. Is there any question over by anybody else? Question? Yes.
You were talking about punishments of Allah. Often we get punishments from Allah, but we also get tests from Allah. There's a fine line between the two, and Muslims can get both of those in their lives. How can we identify when we're being punished by Allah and when we're actually being tested by Allah?
Okay. Question is, how can we differentiate between a test that Allah has sent someone and a punishment that Allah has sent them? Okay. Someone knows they're being tested by Allah if they are doing what they are supposed to be doing and certain things happen to them. Those are how you identify tests. Punishments are when the punishment comes and then you think back to, because a lot of times when a punishment comes, you think back to something that you did. Oh, I had no business doing it. Why did I do that for? So someone who they were involved in joyriding or what have you, and that one time they get in a car accident, they ran into someone. Oh, subhanAllah, why did I do that? The person that has a chain smoking habit and they get diagnosed with cancer, right? It brings them back to that moment. Now, if someone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, then that's a different matter. Now, you'll often see in the book of Allah that punishments will often be connected with certain crimes. So with idolatry, you have earthquakes, hurricanes, homosexuality, fire, hail and brimstone, sulfur, right? Things like this raining down. Those are evidences. Okay, if people are doing this, they can expect this to happen. If they're engaged in heavy homosexuality, they can expect this to happen. Right? Now, sometimes the believer might suffer a test. He himself hasn't done anything wrong, but because the people around him are wicked, and Allah sends a punishment against them, for that believer, that might be his martyrdom, because he hasn't done anything wrong. But for those around them, it's their punishment. So you look at your condition, what exactly you're doing, and look at the things that are happening to you. And that is how you can often ascertain the difference between Allah's testing someone and punishing someone. All right? Are there any final questions? Yes? No? No? So inshallah, we'll cease here. And we've stopped on ayah 59. So inshallah, we are close to completing Surah Al-Qasas. Inshallah, next week, I believe we will complete. So we say, Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk, innahu ghafurur rahim, rahimir rahimin, wa la ilaha illa Allah, wassalamu alaikum.